And hello again, and here we are for part 3 of my Reboot series on this, my Kawasaki Z650/1170 project. So, in front of the bike here we have a frame, and this frame is from a Kawasaki Z1000A1. And here in my hands I've got a standard ducktail for this bike, and the reason why I'm showing it here is because there are some quite big differences between the back of this frame, the standard frame, and this standard ducktail, and the back of my bike and my very non-standard ducktail, and that's causing me a problem that I'm going to try and address in this episode. So first of all then, let's see how this ducktail is secured onto the standard frame. So we've got 4 mounting points. We've got 2 here at the front and 2 here at the back on this bracket underneath the ducktail, and they match up with 2 mounts here on the frame and 2 at the back on this bracket, which is right at the very back of the frame. So it's held in place securely on rubber mounts in 4 separate places. Unfortunately, that isn't the case with my bike, and that's causing me quite a big problem. And so if the frame on my bike was a standard Z650 frame, it would still be very, very different from that of the 1000, and so the ducktail wouldn't fit in any case. However, the back of my frame is very non-standard, even compared to a Z650. It's something very different, and therefore, because of those differences, this ducktail is only held in place by the 2 bolts at the front here, which are underneath the seat. We don't have the 2 mounts at the back to secure the ducktail. Now, I knew that was a problem at the start of the project, but I hoped that the 2 bolts at the front, along with the sort of stress and tension of having the seat bolted down over it, would mean this ducktail was pretty secure. But I was wrong, because it's not secure, and right now this is what happens. It can move you like that, it can flap about like a duck. It's a ducktail, it can flap around, and that's no good. In use, this is going to wear through the paintwork in no time, and God knows what other problems it might cause. So I've got to come up with a solution to stop this from happening, while making sure I don't damage this rather beautiful paintwork. And so with the ducktail removed, we can see what's going on beneath. So here I've got a stainless steel splash guard, and here I've got a stainless steel bracket onto which everything is bolted. And this bracket is a kind of open box shape. So on each side we've got the indicators bolted via some spacers, and at the back we've got the rear lamp. Now when it comes to the frame, all I've got to work with is this plate here that goes across the back of the seat rails, and that's got 2 holes drilled in it, so everything I've got has to be bolted via these 2 bolts. So looking ahead then, how on earth am I going to support the ducktail above here using just these 2 bolt holes? And it's not easy, but I have got an idea. And so my idea is to use this aluminium plate here to make a bracket that will be bolted vertically to the back of the frame. Now then, I've got to very carefully bend this aluminium plate to 90 degrees like so, at just the right height, so it's just touching the underside of the ducktail, and that will obviously support the ducktail. But that's not enough, because that won't stop the ducktail from flapping around, and in time, no doubt, since the aluminium is much harder than the fiberglass, this new bracket will eat its way into the fiberglass, which is no good. So what I need is an extra something, and that something is this stuff, heavy duty Velcro. So I'm going to use this on the underside of the ducktail and stick it to the top of this bracket once it's been made, and hopefully when they come together that should secure the ducktail very well. And it's also quite good because it's quite soft. It's quite a sort of gentle support, so it shouldn't affect the fiberglass in any way, and hopefully that's the problem solved. So now what I've got to do is convert this simple aluminium plate into a bracket that I can bolt to the back of the frame. And now, as you can see, the bracket's been completed on the bike, and I've got the Velcro attached. I've done a quick test fit and it works really, really well, and this ducktail no longer flaps around. In fact, this Velcro works too well, because when I tried to remove the ducktail, it lifted off some of this Velcro here on the bracket. So next I've got to find some really strong glue so I can glue this down permanently, and I don't have to worry about it lifting in the future. But I'll call that a win. And so, moving to the front of the bike, The spacers are needed to move out the front indicators so they're no longer obscured by the new Cockpit fairing have just been finished, as you can see. They're really nice, not an easy thing to make, but they're now done and painted, and so these can now go back on the bike. And there they are on the bike, and that's much better. Meanwhile, here at the front of the bike, I've now got the spacers and bolts I need to mount this new bracket to the lower fork yoke. So my next job is to bend the front of it down to meet up with this tab here. And now I've painted and fitted this new bracket, and it all seems to work okay, and the new Cockpit fairing bracket is firmly attached to the bike. So now let's get the fairing back on the bike and see how it looks. And so here's the fairing in its final position, and I'm pretty happy with the result. Now I've not yet bolted it all up because it's going to have to come off in a minute, like so, because this will have to go off soon to be painted the same colour as the rest of the bike, so there's no point bolting it on the bike yet again. And so with that done, it's now time to move on to the next problem. And so my next task is to make a better version of this bracket. There's one either side of the mudguard. Now this mudguard is from a Yamaha XJR 1300, and the forks are from a Yamaha R6, and I thought they were the same. They look the same and they're both 43mm, but the one difference is the mounting points for the mudguard is slightly different, and therefore I've got to use this little bracket here to make everything fit together. But this isn't very good, it's not very well made, so I just want to make a better version. And so here's that front mudguard bracket taken off the bike. It's a pretty simple thing, it's just a spacer, a countersunk bolt, and a little bracket that I've filed and drilled with a countersink in it. Bit rough and ready, so I decided to make two new ones, like so, that I've also painted black. So now these can go on the bike and hopefully they'll fit a bit better than this old one did. And now there's new brackets on the bike and it does look better. I did of course use rubber washers in between the paintwork and these new brackets. And so with that done, let's see what else I can do today. And so with the problem with the mounts on the ducktail and the front mudguard fixed, it's now time to move on to a problem I've got mounting the seat. And so to show you the problem, let's take the seat off, just lift it off like that. And at the base of the seat, it's fiberglass as you can see, we've got these four studs projecting out. These two at the front go into holes in the frame here, and I can access these studs from underneath, and so I fix some nuts or whatever once I've taken off the side panels. However, at the back here, these two studs have aligned things up. They don't go anywhere. There's nothing for these two studs to go into. And that's because this was made at a time of lockdown of COVID. And I couldn't go and see the frame, I couldn't go and see the seat. It was all in different places. And that's why I think we've got an issue. So I assumed when I got everything back that these two studs would go into here. But as you can see, they don't. But even if they did, which they don't, if they did, I still couldn't tighten them up because I've got no access. Once the seat's in place, there's no way of accessing this area of the frame. So that's a bit of a problem. And so now I need to come up with a solution so the back of the seat is secured firmly to the bike. Now I do have an idea of how to solve this particular problem, but that idea requires some new material that I've ordered off eBay, but it's not here yet, and so that particular solution will have to wait until the next episode. So I think this week we're pretty much finished. I can't really do much more, and in fact it's surprising how long these small little jobs take. I mean, just making that bracket took me half a day at least. Sorting out those little brackets on the front mudguard took several days because I had to make it, undercoat it, let it dry 24 hours, then paint it black, let it dry 24 hours, and then finally get it on the bike. And they're still not finished because I want to change the stainless steel socket heads are fitted for titanium hex heads to match everything else on the front of the bike, but I don't have any, so again I've got to order those particular parts. But at least now the mounts for the Cockpit fairing are all finished, and now this fairing can go off to be painted. God knows how long that might take. It's now August. I might not get it back until December, January, who knows. But the sooner I get it to mark, the painter, the better. And at the moment, I'm just thinking just to get it painted in this red, and that's it. Maybe it should have some gold pin straps as well, but I want to paint it red, get it fitted on the bike, stand back and go say, yes, I like it, or no, it's too plain. I can also take it back and get some extra details added if needed. So that's about it for this week. And so thanks for watching, and cheers.